Dr. Elena Martinez was drinking her morning coffee when the alarm started screaming across the Global Defense Initiative compound. She dropped her mug and ran toward the command center where dozens of technicians were staring at their screens. With worried faces, Captain Jake Sullivan was already there, pointing at the main display that showed a large object moving toward Earth at incredible speed. The object looked like a metal box about the size of a small building, and it was sending out strange signals that made all their equipment go crazy. Elena pushed through the crowd of scientists and military officers to get a better look at the readings. The energy coming from this thing was unlike anything they had ever seen before. "How long until it reaches us?" Elena asked Jake, who was talking rapidly into his headset while watching the tracking data scroll across his screen. Jake held up 3 fingers without looking away from his display. 3 hours was not much time to figure out what this thing was or what it wanted. Then the object started talking. The voice came through their speakers in broken English with strange pauses between words. "Gift for humans," the voice said slowly, like it was learning the language as it spoke. "Peace offering from Zephyrian Empire." Elena felt her stomach drop. First contact with aliens should have been a moment of wonder and excitement, but something about this felt very wrong. The object was too big to be just a simple message, and the energy readings suggested it contained enough power to level a city. Dr. Amy Shin ran into the command center carrying her translation equipment and breathing heavily. She was the best language expert they had, and if anyone could figure out what these aliens really wanted, it would be her. Amy quickly set up her computers and started recording everything the alien object was transmitting. Jake was coordinating with the orbital defense stations to make sure the object could land safely without causing damage. They chose a remote facility in Nevada where they could study it without putting civilians at risk. Elena watched the object on the main screen as it changed course toward the landing site with perfect precision. "This thing knows exactly where it wants to go," Jake said with concern in his voice. "It is not just falling toward Earth randomly. Someone is controlling it, and they know our planet very well." The object landed in the Nevada desert with a soft thud that barely disturbed the sand around it. Within minutes, a team of scientists and soldiers surrounded it with every scanning device they could find. The metal surface was smooth and covered with symbols that looked like nothing any human had ever seen. Elena suited up in protective gear and approached the object with her handheld scanner. The readings were off the charts and getting stronger every minute. Whatever was inside this thing was building up power, and she did not think that was a good sign. Amy had been working on the alien transmissions for 2 hours when she suddenly went very pale and started typing frantically on her keyboard. Elena saw her expression and rushed over to see what she had discovered. "The Zephyrians are still transmitting," Amy said quietly so the others could not hear. "But these new messages are not meant for us. They are talking to each other, and I do not think they know I can understand them." Elena looked at the translation on Amy's screen and felt the blood drain from her face. The aliens were discussing how long it would take for the elimination device to charge up and whether 30 days would be enough time for them to prepare their ships for occupation. "This is not a gift," Elena whispered. "This is a bomb designed to kill everyone on Earth while leaving our cities and resources intact for them to take." Amy nodded grimly and continued translating the alien communications. The Zephyrians had done this before to other planets. They would send a fake peace offering that was actually a weapon designed to wipe out the native population without damaging the infrastructure they wanted to steal. Elena called Jake over and showed him the translations. His face went from confusion to anger to determination in the span of a few seconds. "How long do we have?" he asked. "According to their transmissions, the device will detonate in exactly 30 days, Amy replied. "And from what I can tell, there is no way to stop it once the countdown begins." Jake immediately got on his radio and started calling for an emergency meeting of all world leaders. Elena continued studying the device with growing horror as she realized how sophisticated it was. The technology was far beyond anything humans had developed, but that did not mean they were helpless. Carlos Rodriguez arrived at the facility just as the sun was setting. He was their best nuclear physicist, and if anyone could understand how this alien weapon worked, it would be him. Elena briefed him on everything they had learned while he examined the energy readings. "The power source is unlike anything in our textbooks," Carlos said after studying the data for an hour. "But energy is energy regardless of where it comes from. If we can understand how it works, we might be able to find a way to fight back." Lisa Thompson joined them shortly after midnight. She was an engineer who specialized in taking apart complicated machines and figuring out how they worked. Lisa looked at the alien device like it was a puzzle she was determined to solve. General Robert Kane arrived before dawn with a team of military advisors and security personnel. He set up a command post at the facility and began coordinating with defense forces around the world. The general listened carefully as Elena explained the situation. "So we have 30 days to either stop this thing or find another solution," the general said. "What are our options?" Elena looked at her team of scientists and engineers. They were smart and determined, but they were facing technology that was centuries ahead of their own. However, humans had one advantage that the aliens might not have. Expected, they never gave up without a fight. "We start by learning everything we can about how this device works," Elena said. "Then we figure out how to turn their own weapon against them." The underground facility that everyone now called Site Omega buzzed with activity 24 hours a day. Elena had not slept more than 3 hours at a time since the alien device arrived, and neither had most of her team. They had 25 days left to save the world, and every minute counted. Dr. Carlos Rodriguez spent most of his time staring at computer screens filled with energy readings that made no sense according to human physics. The alien bomb seemed to be pulling power from somewhere else entirely, like it was connected to another dimension. Carlos had never seen anything like it, but he was starting to notice patterns in the data. "Look at this," Carlos called Elena over to his workstation where dozens of graphs showed energy spikes and dips over time. "The power levels are not random. There is a rhythm to it, like the device is breathing or maybe communicating with something far away." Elena studied the patterns while Carlos explained his theory about quantum dimensional manipulation. The bomb was not just sitting there waiting to explode. It was actively doing something that required enormous amounts of energy from a source they could not detect. Kevin Park had been trying to hack into the device's computer system for days without much success. The alien programming was completely different from anything humans used, but Kevin was stubborn and refused to give up. He had found a few small cracks in the system that let him peek at some of the operating code. "The good news is that their security is not perfect," Kevin told the team during their daily meeting. "The bad news is that even when I can see their code, I cannot read most of it. But I'm learning, and every day I understand a little bit more. The real breakthrough came from an unexpected source." Billy Johnson was not a scientist or an engineer with fancy degrees. He was a mechanic who fixed broken equipment and built new machines from spare parts. Most of the time, the educated scientists ignored Billy's suggestions because they seemed too simple, but when Billy looked at the alien device, he did not see advanced technology that was impossible to understand. He saw a machine that someone had built to do a job, and like any machine, it could be taken apart and studied piece by piece. "You are all thinking about this wrong," Billy told the team during lunch break. "You keep trying to stop this bomb, but what if we cannot stop it? What if instead we learn from it and build something better?" Elena was about to dismiss Billy's idea when she realized he might be onto something important. They had been focused on defusing the bomb, but what if they treated it like a blueprint? Instead, what if they could reverse engineer the alien technology and improve on it? Nancy Wright was a salvage expert who specialized in taking apart crashed aircraft and damaged equipment to figure out what went wrong. She had been studying the outside of the alien device, looking for weak points or access panels. Nancy had found several spots where the metal seemed softer and might be possible to cut through without triggering any alarms. "If we are going to take this thing apart, we need to be very careful," Nancy warned the team. "One wrong move and we could set off the countdown early, or worse, make it explode right now." But Elena had made her decision. They were going to open up the alien device and see what was inside, even if it was dangerous. They had nothing to lose since the bomb was going to kill everyone anyway. In a few weeks, working in shifts around the clock, the team began carefully removing pieces from the outer shell of the device. Each component they extracted was immediately taken to another room where it could be studied safely. What they found inside amazed them. The alien technology was advanced, but it was not perfect. In fact, some of the materials and construction techniques were actually inferior to what humans could produce. The aliens used a kind of metal that was strong but also brittle, while human steel alloys were both strong and flexible. Rodriguez made the most important discovery when he analyzed the power core that had been removed from the device. Their energy storage system is based on controlled fusion reactions, he explained to the team. The containment fields are unstable and wasteful. We could build a better power source using our antimatter research. Lisa Thompson was equally excited about the alien computer systems after Kevin had extracted several memory units. Their processors are fast, but they use a lot of energy and generate too much heat, she said. Our quantum computers are more efficient and could run their software better than their own hardware. Even more interesting was what Dr. Martinez discovered about the bomb's targeting system. The device was programmed to scan for specific biological markers before it detonated. It would kill humans and most other Earth life, but it would not harm any creature that had Zephyrian DNA. This tells us exactly how their weapon works, Elena explained to General Kane during their evening briefing. It is not just a bomb that destroys everything. It is designed to clear out the native population while leaving the planet ready for Zephyrian colonists to move in, but this information also gave the humans their first real advantage. If they understood how the targeting system worked, they could potentially build their own version that would affect Zephyrians while sparing humans and their allies. Amy June had been monitoring Zephyrian communications and found more evidence that they had used this same strategy on dozens of other worlds. The aliens had perfected a system of conquest that let them expand their empire without having to fight wars or destroy valuable resources. They think we are primitive and helpless, Amy reported. Based on their communications, they expect us to panic and fight among ourselves while their bomb counts down. They have no idea that we are studying their technology and learning from it. Carlos had been working on his own project in a separate lab. Using salvaged components from the alien device and human manufacturing techniques, he was building a prototype power source that combined the best of both technologies. His fusion antimatter hybrid generator produced 3 times more energy than the alien version while using half the space. Lisa had similar success improving the alien computer systems. By combining their quantum processors with the alien programming, she created a control system that was faster and more reliable than anything either species had built alone. But the most important work was being done by Billy Johnson and Nancy Wright, who were designing a completely new kind of weapon based on what they had learned. Instead of just copying the alien bomb, they were creating something better that would carry a very different kind of message. As the team worked through their 3rd straight week of 80-hour days, Elena began to see a plan taking shape. They could not stop the alien bomb from detonating, but they could make sure the Zephyrians received an answer they would never forget. We are not going to be victims, Elena announced to the team as they gathered around a table covered with alien components and human improvements. We are going to show these aliens what happens when they underestimate the human race. With only 14 days remaining until the alien bomb detonated, Elena divided her team into specialized groups, each working on a different part of humanity's response. The plan was ambitious and dangerous, but it was their only chance to strike. Back at the Zephyrians before Earth was destroyed, engineer Sam Davis took charge of the construction crew that would build the delivery system for their weapon. Sam had spent years designing spacecraft and missiles, but nothing he had worked on before compared to what they needed now. The human response had to travel across interstellar space and arrive at the Zephyrian homeworld with perfect timing. Using the alien dimensional gate technology that Kevin Park had decoded from the bomb's navigation system, Sam began designing a spacecraft that could fold space and time around itself. The mathematics were incredibly complex, but human computers were better at processing the calculations than the alien systems had been. Dar. Rodriguez was making remarkable progress on the power source for their weapon. His fusion antimatter hybrid generator was not only more efficient than the alien version, but also more stable and easier to control. Carlos had discovered that human understanding of nuclear physics was actually more advanced than Zephyrian science in several important ways. They rely too much on brute force, Carlos explained while showing Elena his latest test results. Their fusion reactors are powerful but wasteful because they have not learned how to fine-tune the reaction. Our approach is more elegant and gives us better results with less fuel. The weapons team led by Frank Miller was working on the most important part of the project. Frank had designed conventional explosives and nuclear warheads for the military, but creating a planet-killer weapon based on alien technology was completely new territory even for him. Frank's design used the same quantum dimensional principles as the alien bomb but scaled up with human improvements. Where the Zephyrian weapon could eliminate all complex life on a planet, Frank's version could shatter the crust and boil away the oceans. It was 3 times more powerful than the original and far more precise in its targeting, but the real innovation came from Dr. Amy Chien, who was programming the weapon with something the aliens had never expected. Instead of just destroying their homeworld, the human device would first broadcast a complete database of human civilization, including art, music, literature, science, and technology. We want them to understand exactly what they tried to destroy, Amy explained while uploading terabytes of human culture into the weapon's memory banks. When they see what we have accomplished, they will realize they made a terrible mistake by underestimating us. The message would be transmitted on every frequency the Zephyrians use for communication, ensuring that every alien on their homeworld would receive it. The broadcast would include human achievements in mathematics, physics, engineering, medicine, and dozens of other fields that would prove Earth's people were not primitive savages. Commander Linda Foster was working on the navigation system that would guide their weapon through folded space to reach the alien homeworld. Linda had been a test pilot before becoming a space navigation expert, and she understood better than anyone how difficult it would be to hit a target millions of light years away. Using improved versions of the alien dimensional gate technology, Linda created a guidance system that was both faster and more accurate than anything the Zephyrians had built. The human weapon would arrive at its destination within minutes of being launched, while the original alien bomb had taken weeks to reach Earth. Major Tony Mitchell volunteered to pilot the spacecraft that would carry their weapon into alien space. Tony was one of the best pilots in the Global Defense Initiative, and he understood that this mission was likely to be a one-way trip. But he was determined to make sure humanity's message reached the Zephyrians. Someone needs to be there to make sure everything goes according to plan, Tony told Elena when she tried to convince him to let someone else take the risk. This is too important to trust to automated systems alone. Elena was proud of her team, but also worried about the ethical implications of what they were planning. Building a weapon capable of destroying an entire planet went against everything she believed in as a scientist. But the Zephyrians had made the choice to commit genocide, and humans had the right to defend themselves. Dr. Martinez spent hours each day studying the alien bomb's targeting system to make sure their response would be equally precise. The human weapon would scan for Zephyrian biological markers before detonating, just as the alien device was programmed to identify and spare alien life while killing humans. We are giving them the same choice they gave us, Elena explained to General Kane during one of their strategy meetings. They can surrender and face justice for their crimes, or they can experience the same fate they planned for Earth. Billy Johnson and Nancy Wright had finished reverse engineering every component of the alien bomb and were now building improved versions using human manufacturing techniques. Their workshop looked like a cross between a high-tech laboratory and an old-fashioned machine shop with alien technology mixed together with human tools and materials. The funny thing is that some of our oldest techniques work better than their fancy alien methods, Nancy said while welding together pieces of the weapon's outer shell. They have forgotten that sometimes simple solutions are the best. Solutions. Kevin Park had successfully cracked the alien communication protocols and was now monitoring Zephyrian transmissions in real time. The aliens were still discussing their plans for occupying Earth after the bomb eliminated the human population. They had already chosen which cities they wanted to use as their new colonies. They are so confident that we cannot stop their weapon that they are not even watching for any kind of response from us, Kevin reported. Their defensive systems are focused on conventional threats, not on someone using their own technology against them. This gave the humans a crucial advantage. The Zephyrians would have no warning when the human weapon arrived at their homeworld because they were not expecting any retaliation from a species they considered primitive and helpless. Carlos had finished building the power core for their weapon and was now working on the detonation sequence. Unlike the alien bomb, which had a fixed timer, the human version could be triggered remotely or set to activate when it detected specific conditions. Lisa Thompson had integrated all the computer systems and was running final tests on the weapon's artificial intelligence. The device would be smart enough to adapt to changing situations and make decisions on its own if communication with Earth was lost during the mission. As the construction neared completion, Elena realized they had created something far more sophisticated than the alien bomb that started this crisis. The human weapon was faster, more powerful, more accurate, and more intelligent than anything the Zephyrians had built, but most importantly, it carried a message that would change how the aliens viewed humanity forever. Instead of seeing humans as primitive creatures to be eliminated, the Zephyrians would learn that Earth's people were capable of matching and exceeding alien technology. When they were motivated to defend themselves, Frank Miller made the final connections on the weapon's detonation system while Sam Davis prepared the launch vehicle that would carry it into space. Major Mitchell ran through his flight checklist one more time as the countdown entered its final phase. Elena looked at the completed weapon and felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Her team had accomplished the impossible by building a device that could save Earth from destruction. But she wished they had been able to make first contact with aliens under better circumstances. "Ready when you are," Sam Davis reported as all systems showed green lights on the control panel. The human response to alien aggression was complete and waiting for the order to launch. 3 days before the alien bomb was scheduled to destroy Earth, Kevin Park discovered something that changed everything about their plan. While monitoring the device's internal systems, he found a small flaw in the countdown sequence that could be exploited to give them extra time. "I can introduce controlled errors into their system that will delay the detonation by exactly 6 hours," Kevin explained to Elena and the rest of the team. "The bomb will still try to explode, but the delay will give us a crucial window to execute our counterattack." Elena realized immediately why this was so important. If they could make the Zephyrians think Earth had been destroyed on schedule, while actually launching their response weapon during the delay period, then the aliens would have no warning of what was coming. General Kane called an emergency meeting with world leaders to explain the new plan. Instead of just sending their weapon to the alien homeworld, they would create the illusion that Earth had been completely destroyed exactly when the Zephyrians expected it to happen. "We need every country to cooperate in the largest deception in human history," the general told the assembled presidents and prime ministers during a secure video conference. "Every satellite, every radio transmission, every sign that our civilization exists must go dark at the moment their bomb was supposed to detonate." Captain Sullivan coordinated with defense networks around the globe to prepare for the blackout. Military bases would shut down their radar systems. Communication satellites would stop broadcasting. Even civilian radio and television stations would go off the air simultaneously. To create the appearance of total annihilation, the timing had to be perfect. Elena's team had calculated that their weapon would need exactly 5 hours and 43 minutes to travel through folded space to reach the Zephyrian homeworld. This meant they had to launch during the delay period while the alien bomb was malfunctioning, but before it actually detonated, Dr. Rodriguez made final adjustments to their weapon's power core while Frank Miller armed the detonation sequence. The device that humanity had built in response to alien aggression was ready to deliver its devastating payload along with the cultural database that Amy Chun had compiled. Major Tony Mitchell suited up for what everyone knew might be a suicide mission. His spacecraft was designed to survive the dimensional gate transition, but there was no guarantee he would be able to return to Earth afterward. Tony accepted these risks because he understood how important it was for someone to witness humanity's message being delivered. "I want to be there to see their faces when they realize what we have done," Tony told Elena as he prepared for departure. "These aliens need to understand that humans do not forgive genocide attempts, Lisa." Thompson ran final diagnostics on all the computer systems while Billy Johnson and Nancy Wright completed their last-minute improvements to the weapon's outer shell. Every component had been tested and retested to ensure maximum reliability during the long journey through space. Amy Chun uploaded the final version of humanity's message into the weapon's memory banks. The database now contained not just human achievements in science and technology, but also examples of human art, music, literature, and philosophy that would show the aliens exactly what kind of species they had tried to eliminate. When they receive this transmission, they will understand that Earth's people are not primitive barbarians, Amy said while reviewing the cultural files. They will see that we have created beauty and meaning and knowledge that rivals anything in their empire. Commander Linda Foster made last-minute corrections to the navigation system based on the latest data about the Zephyrian homeworld's location. The dimensional gate would open a pathway directly to the alien capital city, where their government and military leadership were concentrated. Kevin Park monitored the alien bomb's countdown while making subtle adjustments to introduce the system errors that would create their 6-hour window. He had to be extremely careful not to trigger any alarms that might warn the Zephyrians that their weapon was being tampered with. "The countdown is now showing 71 hours and 53 minutes remaining," Kevin reported. "I am ready to introduce the delay sequence on your command." Elena looked around at her team of scientists, engineers, and military personnel who had worked without rest for weeks to create humanity's response to alien aggression. They had accomplished something that should have been impossible by reverse engineering technology far beyond human understanding and then improving on it. "Execute the delay sequence," Elena ordered. "All stations prepare for Operation Homecoming." Kevin's fingers moved rapidly across his keyboard as he introduced carefully calculated errors into the alien bomb's operating system. The device continued its countdown, but internal monitoring showed that the detonation sequence was now running 6 hours behind schedule. General Kane activated the global communication blackout as countries around the world shut down their satellites and broadcasting systems. Within minutes, Earth appeared completely silent to any observers monitoring from space. The planet looked exactly like it would if the alien bomb had successfully eliminated all human civilization. Major Mitchell climbed into his spacecraft and began the launch sequence while ground control ran through final system checks. The weapon designated Homecoming was secured in the cargo bay along with enough supplies to keep Tony alive during his journey through folded space. "Launch window opens in 37 minutes, Sam Davis announced over the communication system. "All departments report ready status." Elena watched the countdown displays showing both the alien bomb timer and their own launch sequence. Everything had to happen with split-second precision or the plan would fail and Earth would be destroyed for real when the bomb finally detonated. Dr. Martinez monitored the Zephyrian communication channels through Amy's translation system as the aliens discussed their preparations for occupying Earth after the human population was eliminated. They were already sending advanced ships toward the solar system, confident that their weapon would clear the way for colonization. "They have no idea what is about to happen," Amy said while listening to alien transmissions about dividing Earth's resources among different Zephyrian factions. "They think we are all going to be dead in a few hours." The irony was not lost on Elena that the aliens were correct about the timing, but wrong about who was going to die. In less than 6 hours, the Zephyrian homeworld would face the same countdown they had inflicted on Earth, except with no possibility of escape or survival. Launch sequence initiated. Tony's voice came through the speakers as his spacecraft lifted off from the Nevada facility. Homecoming is airborne and climbing toward dimensional gate activation altitude. Elena watched on the main screen as Tony's ship disappeared into the darkness of space, carrying humanity's response toward an alien civilization that had never encountered determined resistance from their victims before today. Dimensional gate opening in 3 minutes, Linda Foster reported as the navigation system aligned itself with the pathway that would carry their weapon across thousands of light years in less than 6 hours. The moment of truth was approaching, and Elena felt a mixture of pride and terror at what her team had accomplished. They had turned the aliens' own technology against them and proved that human ingenuity could overcome any threat when people worked together toward a common goal. Gate transition successful, Tony reported from somewhere in folded space. Homecoming is en route to target destination with all systems functioning normally. Now all they could do was wait and see if their desperate gamble would save Earth from destruction while teaching the Zephyrian Empire a lesson they would never forget about underestimating the human species. Major Tony Mitchell emerged from the dimensional gate transition 5 hours and 41 minutes after leaving Earth to find himself in orbit around the Zephyrian homeworld. The planet below was even more beautiful than the satellite images had suggested, with gleaming cities that stretched across entire continents and orbital platforms that sparkled like jewels in the sunlight. This was the heart of an empire that had conquered dozens of worlds by sending false gifts that turned out to be genocide weapons. The Zephyrians had perfected their system of deception over centuries of expansion, leaving behind empty planets, ready for colonization after eliminating the native populations. But they had never encountered humans before, and they were about to learn why. That was a crucial oversight in their planning. Tony activated the communication system and began broadcasting on all Zephyrian frequencies as Homecoming descended toward the planet's surface. His message was simple and direct, using the translation protocols that Amy Chun had developed from studying alien communications for weeks. This is Major Tony Mitchell, representing the human species of Earth. His voice carried across every radio and television network on the planet below. You delivered a bomb to our world as a peace offering. We are returning it to you with improvements. The response from the Zephyrian government was immediate panic as military alerts echoed across their communication channels. They could not understand how the primitive humans had survived their weapon or built a spacecraft capable of reaching the Zephyrian homeworld. But Tony was not finished with his message. As Homecoming settled into a stable orbit above the alien capital city, he activated the cultural database that would broadcast humanity's achievements to every Zephyrian receiver capable of picking up the transmission. The aliens watched in growing amazement as human art and music and literature flowed across their screens. They saw the mathematical proofs and scientific discoveries that human minds had created. They witnessed the technological marvels that Earth's people had built through cooperation and determination. Most importantly, they began to understand that they had tried to eliminate a species whose creativity and intelligence rivaled their own. The humans were not primitive barbarians who could be easily swept aside for colonization. They were a civilization worth knowing and learning from instead of destroying. Dr. Elena Martinez, back on Earth, was monitoring the transmission through the dimensional gateway that connected Tony's spacecraft to the Nevada facility. She watched with satisfaction as confusion spread through the Zephyrian leadership, who had expected to be celebrating the successful elimination of another species instead of facing retaliation from their intended victims. Amy Chen was translating the alien responses as they flooded the communication channels. The Zephyrians were arguing among themselves about how to respond to this unexpected development. Some wanted to activate their planetary defenses, while others called for immediate evacuation of their homeworld. But Tony had one more surprise for them as Homecoming moved into position directly above the Zephyrian capital. The weapon that humanity had built from reverse-engineered alien technology was now armed and ready to deliver its devastating payload. You have 30 minutes to consider your response, Tony announced to the planet below. The same amount of time you originally gave Earth before your bomb was supposed to detonate. The countdown that appeared on every Zephyrian screen was identical to the one that had terrorized Earth, except for the human improvements that made it more accurate and 3 times more powerful than the original alien design. Elena could hear the desperation in the alien transmissions as the Zephyrian military tried every defensive system they had developed over centuries of conquest. Their energy shields and interceptor missiles and orbital weapons platforms were all useless against a weapon that operated on quantum dimensional principles they did not fully understand. The irony was perfect. The aliens had built their empire using superior technology to eliminate species that could not defend themselves. Now they faced the same hopeless situation they had inflicted on countless other civilizations, but humans had learned something during their struggle to survive that the Zephyrians had forgotten during their easy conquests. Mercy was more powerful than revenge, and justice was more important than destruction. With 10 minutes remaining on the countdown, Tony opened a direct communication channel to the Zephyrian Emperor, whose desperate pleas for negotiation were being broadcast across the planet. The alien leader who had ordered the destruction of Earth was now begging for his own people's lives. "We did not know your species was capable of such achievements," the Emperor transmitted in broken English. "If we had understood your civilization's worth, we would never have threatened your world." Tony listened to the aliens' apologies and promises of peace while Elena and her team on Earth debated whether to trust the word of a species that had built their empire on genocide and deception. "They had the same information about us that we had about them," Elena said during the emergency conference call with world leaders. "They chose to see us as primitives because it made their crimes easier to justify," but Amy Chen had been analyzing the Zephyrian communications and found something interesting in their historical records. The aliens had not always been conquerors. Thousands of years ago, they had been explorers and scientists who sought knowledge from other species instead of dominating them. Their empire corrupted them, Amy explained to the team. Power made them forget that other civilizations had value beyond the resources they could steal. With 5 minutes left on the countdown, the Zephyrian Emperor made a final offer that surprised everyone listening. He would provide complete information about all the worlds his empire had conquered, including the locations of any surviving populations that had been enslaved rather than eliminated. "We will make reparations for our crimes," the Emperor promised. "We will restore the species we have harmed and guarantee that Zephyrian forces will never threaten Earth again." Elena made the decision that would define humanity's first contact with alien civilization. Instead of completing their revenge by destroying the Zephyrian homeworld, they would give the aliens a chance to prove their words with actions. "Countdown suspended," Tony announced as the timer stopped with 2 minutes and 17 seconds remaining. "But this weapon will remain in orbit around your planet as insurance against future aggression." The relief in the alien communications was obvious as the Zephyrian Emperor began transmitting detailed star charts showing the locations of enslaved populations throughout the galaxy. The information revealed the true scope of their empire and the crimes they had committed against dozens of species. Elena realized that humanity's response to alien aggression had accomplished something far more important than simple revenge. They had liberated an entire galaxy of oppressed civilizations and turned Earth's greatest enemy into a potential ally. Over the following weeks, Zephyrian ships began arriving at Earth carrying technology and resources as compensation for the attempted genocide. The aliens also provided assistance in contacting and liberating the enslaved populations they had identified in their star charts. Dr. Rodriguez found that Zephyrian science combined with human innovation could solve energy problems and environmental challenges that had seemed impossible before first contact. Carlos began working with alien scientists to develop fusion reactors that could provide clean power for centuries. The bomb that the aliens had intended to destroy Earth became a monument in the Nevada desert with a simple plaque that read, "Delivered by the Zephyrian Empire. Returned with interest by the human race. Earth survived. The galaxy was freed." Elena often visited the monument to remember how close Earth had come to destruction and how human determination had turned the greatest threat in their history into The beginning of a new age of exploration and cooperation among the stars. Tony Mitchell returned to Earth as a hero, but he preferred to think of himself as a messenger who had delivered humanity's most important communication to an alien species that needed to learn about justice and mercy. The Zephyrian Empire became the Galactic Liberation Alliance, as former conquerors worked alongside their former victims to explore the universe and share knowledge instead of stealing resources and eliminating civilizations. Amy Chun established the first interspecies translation center where humans and aliens could learn each other's languages and customs. Communication barriers that had led to misunderstanding and conflict slowly broke down as different species began working together on common goals. Kevin Park developed new computer systems that combined the best elements of human and alien technology. His hybrid networks became the foundation for galactic communication that allowed instant contact between worlds separated by thousands of light years. Billy Johnson and Nancy Wright opened a workshop where human mechanics worked alongside Zephyrian engineers to build spacecraft capable of exploring distant galaxies. Their collaboration proved that practical experience was just as valuable as advanced education when solving complex problems. Commander Linda Foster led the first joint human-alien exploration mission to discover new worlds that could be settled peacefully without displacing native populations. Her navigation expertise helped establish trade routes that connected dozens